All right, so just as a reminder, as I'm pulling up the PowerPoint for today, we will not have classes next week. That is the 22nd and the 24th. There will be an online assignment. So essentially, what's going to happen for that online assignment is I'm going to share the video of how, in the past, of how I've presented the project to the students. Okay. And that's going to include one of the recipes for the project, the rub recipe. Okay. So your online assignment, it's not that we don't have, not that you don't have any homework, but it's we don't have any class. And so you're going to watch that video. There's two quizzes for the chapter for the project and the rub recipe. So those three assignments are going to be due before I come back. And then on the 29th, we'll go over any questions about the project. And then that way we can start getting ready or get started on those types of assignments. Okay. Um, so not that there's classes not canceled, it's just independent study. Okay. Um, so I will make sure you have that video from last semester. I will post that. Let's see. And then I do have an update I will share with you. Um, the executive chef from the Hotel Contessa has resigned. And so the street taco cook-off is kind of up in the air right now, trying to decide what they're going to do. Okay. Um, they basically provide all the ingredients. It's no cost to me, it's only cost to the hotel. And so if they decide to not do it, then that's up to them because there's not really any obligation from our side. So I don't want to push it. I told them just keep me posted, and I will keep you posted as that comes up. All right. Chapter 4. This is actually one of my favorite chapters. Um, because I think with chapter 4, this is our opportunity to determine how much we should sell our products for. Okay, there's multiple ways that we're going to demonstrate, and there's not just one fixed way to do things. So we're going to do a couple of different methods and then compare the results of those prices. Um, and then ultimately, you as a business owner have to determine kind of what's the best route for you. Okay. Um, so they all have their pros and cons. We'll talk about those. And then the final thing for chapter 4 is we're going to do a menu analysis. Okay. And we'll talk about, um, in the previous chapter for chapter 3, we talked about or was it chapter 2, was the last step of the budgeting cycle was taking corrective action. So as we evaluate our budgets, then we can figure out and take corrective action. Do we need to rework our menu, our recipe? Do we need to increase the price? And we take that corrective action, and then we analyze the menu again to see how the effects of those changes. So where's my? There we go. Okay, so some of the things that impact our menu and our pricing. Um, how does our competition impact our pricing? Any thoughts?
Competition can sell for a lower price than you.
Absolutely. Great, Josh. Thank you so much. Absolutely. So I don't know if y'all remember, but for a while back, Pizza Hut introduced a $10 large pizza, right? And you could put as many toppings as you wanted. Now, if you're on the app, it would be like, whoa, hold on. Our pizza is best with only 6 toppings. Don't go crazy. Okay. But you could put as many toppings as you wanted, and it was $10 for any large pizza. Okay. So you think about what that does for the competitors like Papa John's, what's another pizza place that I can't think of.
Caesars.
Little Caesars, Marco's, okay, all those different pizza places, that puts pressure on them because people who are price sensitive may go straight to Pizza Hut just because it's a $10 price, okay? Little Caesars, they introduced the $5 hot and ready, which is now no longer $5, right? It's a little bit more, but still, it's hot and ready. What does that mean?
Hot and ready.
It's hot and ready. You don't have to wait for it. You can just walk in and say, I want a pepperoni pizza. Here you go, right? Versus the other model where you have to order the pepperoni pizza and they say it's going to be X number of minutes before it's ready. Okay. And so our competition can impact that. And so maybe if we want to be a little bit more competitive, we might have to consider adjusting our prices. We have no impact on what our competitors do. Okay. The price value relationship, I think this is one of the most important of our external forces because our price value is related to our guests. Our guests have to find value in the price that they are paying for the food. Okay. How many of you have ever been to a restaurant before and you leave thinking, wow, that was not worth the price I paid for it? Okay. Do you go back to those places?
No.
Not usually. Okay. And so what we have to think about is that price value relationship. Am I going to price my product so high that eventually people don't find value in that? Okay. Or the reverse of that is if I want to control my costs, okay. If I want to control my costs and I want to rework my recipe and introduce maybe a cheaper ingredient, if I do that, my guests may not be willing to pay the same price if it sacrifices the quality of that recipe. Okay. And so that price value relationship is very important. We'll talk about markup differentiation in just a moment. Okay. So the one that we haven't talked about up here is the demand-driven pricing. What is demand-driven pricing? What does that mean?
You want to meet the
Price depending on demand.
Okay, price dependent on demand. In a way, yes. Demand-driven pricing, if you think about it this way, how many of you have been to a concert or a sporting event, and you really just have to have your pizza, your personal pan pizza from Pizza Hut while you watch your favorite artist perform at the concert, right? Can you leave the venue and go get your pizza and then come back? No, you have to order it there at the stadium, right? When you order that pizza at the stadium, is it the same price as your neighborhood Pizza Hut store? No.
So
The same thing happens. Demand-driven pricing is like for example, think about an airport. Okay, if you're traveling and you just gotta eat your double cheese Whataburger, it's gonna cost you more at the airport than it costs you at the local burger place, right? The local neighborhood Whataburger. Demand-driven pricing says that you kind of have a captive audience. So you can kind of control, you can kind of charge what you want. Now, of course, go back to that price value relationship. If people aren't willing to pay that price, they don't think it's a good value, then they're not going to pay that price. Okay. And so you can price it whatever you want, but if people don't find that value, then they're not going to buy it. And then you're not going to have any sales. And that's not a good thing. Okay. Markup differentiation just basically says that when we think about marking up our pricing of our menu items, not every menu item is created equal. Okay. The higher the cost of our menu item, the lower the markup can be. Okay. So think about it this way. We can't mark up the same soda and a steak. Okay. So if I mark up by 10%, let's just use a quick example. How much does my soda cost me? Cost me as a restaurant. I would say probably about 10 cents, maybe. Let's make it 25 cents just to be on the to be a little bit more conservative with our cost, okay? So 25 cents, that includes the cup, the ice, the straw, the lid, everything, right? 25 cents.
Mhm.
My steak, probably $30. Okay, that's my cost as a restaurant. Now, if I use a 10% markup, okay, 10% markup. Actually, let's change that, not 10%. Let's do entrees have a 25 to 50% markup. So let's do a 50% markup. Okay. So we're gonna go with a 50%. If I multiply by 0.5, what do I get? What's 25 times 0.5?
12.5.
12.5. Okay. So that's 12.5 cents. I'm going to add that to my 25 cents. And I get what? Add those two together. 37. So 37.5 cents. We're going to round up to 38 cents. How many times have you seen a soda sold for 38 cents? Not very often, if ever, right? Now let's look at our steak. Times 50%. 50% markup. 30, what's half of 30? $15. We add those two together, and this tells me I should sell my steak for $45. Does that sound about right?
Yes.
Right? Okay. Depending on which steak place you're going to.
Mhm.
So that's a 50% markup. Okay. Now, we oftentimes can do a 90% markup for our beverages. Okay. If we do a 90% markup, what is 0.25 times? In this case, we're going to do 0.90. Okay. What is 0.25 times 0.9? 2.225?
Yeah.
Okay. We add that to 25. Now we've got a whole 47 cents. Okay.
Mhm.
We are still not getting not too high up there, right? Now, if we look at our steak and do the same thing, we multiply by 0.9, what do we get? $27 plus the 30. Now we're at 57.
Mhm.
See how the price changes based on the percentage markup that we do? Okay. Somebody may not be willing to pay almost $60 for that steak. Okay. And so again, we'll talk about this in a little bit on another formula. Okay. Different ways that we can different ways we can determine what we're going to sell our items for. One is the triangle. That's the food cost percentage. We already know that one, right? So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that one, but that is the first method, is the food cost percentage. Okay. Second method is going to be our factor method. Have anybody ever heard a chef say, just take what it cost you and multiply by 3? Anybody ever heard that before? So a lot of times chefs, that's how they'll figure out what to cost it at, is they'll take whatever it costs and they'll multiply it by 3. That's a factor of 3. Okay. If I have a factor of 3, that is somewhere right here. Oops, right here. That's my 33% food cost. Remember how we talked about in a previous chapter, the industry standard is 30 to 33% food cost? That's how we get that 33% food cost. If you take 100 and divide it by 3, what do you get? 33.3%. Okay. So that's where we get our factor of 3. Just multiply it by 3. Cost me $5, multiply it by 3, that's my factor of 3. I get $15, sell it for $15. Okay, that's an easy way to do it in your head. The other easy thing is when it is specifically like factors that are even numbers, like actually whole numbers, right? No decimals. It's a lot easier to figure that out as well. So how you figure out the factor is you take the 100 and we divide by our ideal percentage. Okay, so if 100 divided by 20 is what? 5. 100 divided by 25, how many quarters are there in a dollar? 4. There's 4, right? So then all we have to do is multiply our factor, our cost by our factor. That's a super easy way to do it. Okay? So if I have a recipe cost of $2.50 and my food cost, my ideal food cost is 25%, what should I do?
Multiply by 4.
I multiply by my factor of 4. Does anybody have any questions about how we got that 4? We took 100 divided by our food cost percentage. That's our factor of 4. So I should sell this item for $10. Okay. What is my factor for 30%?
Oh, 3.3.
3.33. So if I multiply $3 times 3.33, that's my factor. I get what?
9.99.
$9.99, okay. Excellent, so basically $10. What is my factor for 40%? 40 is 2.5. So I multiply my cost by 2.5%, or 2.5, sorry, not percent. By 2.5, and what do I get?
38.
38 exactly?
38.12. Oh,
Okay,
13.
okay. Excellent. And the last one, 10%. What is 100? Let's do this one in green so we keep it separate. What is 100 divided by 10?
10.
So my factor, so that's 10%, right? That's my ideal percentage. So my factor is 10. If I multiply by 10,
150.
$1.50. Questions, comments, concerns about how we got these menu selling prices? That factor method is relatively easy. Okay. If we go back real quick to that example in the previous slide, the beverage versus the steak. Okay. My steak costs $30 and I have a 10%, that would be using the factor method. I would sell that steak for $300. Do you think people are going to buy a steak for $300? Probably not. Okay, not in San Antonio anyways. Okay, so any questions about the factor method? So we first have to figure out what the factor is. We take 100 divided by our ideal percentage, and that gives us our factor. And we just simply multiply. Okay, now let's use our contribution margin method. So contribution margin, what is the root word of contribution? Contribute, okay? So when I hear contribution margin, I think about what contributes to the profit and our fixed costs, okay? Because our food cost is right here. So we have our food costs plus all of our rent and all of our insurance, all that stuff. Those are our fixed costs. That equals our profit, right? We subtract that from our sales. So if we can take this contribution, we take all of the non-food cost plus whatever our ideal profit is going to be. Okay, that's our contribution margin. And then we divide that by the number of guests that we think we're going to have. Again, this is more of an estimate. And then simply all we do after that is to then just add the contribution margin to our food costs. So let's do an example. Here we go. If we have non-food costs, that's our rent, salaries, insurance, our Spotify subscription, all those different things, right? Our non-food costs are $5,000. And our profit that we want to aim for is 3,000. So what is that total?
8,000.
We add those together and we get $8,000. Okay. And then I think I'm going to have approximately 2,000 guests during this time period. So I divide that by 2,000 and what do I get? $4 per guest. Okay. So $4 per guest, if I add 4 to each one of these, because that's my contribution margin per guest, right? So every time somebody buys something, $4 of that is going to contribute to my non-food costs and my profit. And once I reach 2,000 people, then I will have all that cost covered. Okay? So we add that together and what do we get? Just straight down. 4 plus 250, 650. 4 plus 350, or sorry, 3 is 7. 4 plus 15, 25.
1825.
And then the last one,
15.
415. Okay. What you maybe hopefully have noticed is our recipe costs have stayed the same from this slide. Okay, 2 different methods. Recipe costs are the same. Which 2, 1, 2, 3, 4 going down, 1, 2, 3, 4, which 2 are the most drastic from this slide to this slide? Which 2?
1825.
Okay, so number 3, the $15.25 and
The 1525 as well. Right?
the beverage, the very bottom one, right? We go from $1.50 to $4.15.
Mhm.
Okay, those 2 are the most drastic. If I can sell, if my guests are willing to pay $38 for whatever this entree is, am I gonna sell it to them for $19 just because the math tells me I can sell it to them for $19?
No.
No. Okay. If I price this out, and this is a beverage at $4.15, are my guests going to pay $4.15 for their iced tea? Or going back to that price value relationship, is $1.50 maybe a little bit more manageable? Okay. Or maybe we go somewhere in the middle and we do $2.50. I feel like most times, most beverages now are $3. Okay. And so it all, again, goes back to that price value relationship. It goes back to tracking and seeing how many sales you're giving, how many sales you're getting. Okay. Questions, comments, concerns about contribution margin method, factor method, food cost percentage method. How many of y'all realize that there's so many different ways to figure out how much you're going to sell items for?
There's just one way.
What's that?
I thought there was only one.
Just
way.
one way. Yep. No, there's not just one way. Okay. And now we also, if we take a look at this too, okay, is there a difference between $10 and $9.99?
No.
1 penny, yes, there's 1 penny difference. So mathematically, there's a difference. Okay. But there's a whole psychology around menu pricing, right? When I see $9.99, when I say me, I was like Mr. Uminski. When I see $9.99, I'm like, oh, that's only $9. I'm focusing on that first number, right? It's literally 1 penny away from $10. But in my mind, that's only $9, right? Because I'm just focusing on that first number. There's also, when we'll talk about here in just a moment, the different categories of menu items. Actually, let's jump into that. Make sure I don't get too far ahead. Oh, sorry, the last one. There's one more. It's the Q factor. Okay. The last one is the fourth one is the Q factor method. Okay. Q factor, we'll talk about it in the project in one way. This one is basically all of the free stuff. We're going to use free in quotations. All the free stuff that comes with your menu item. If you're, let's say you order an entree and it comes with 2 sides. You can choose whatever 2 sides you want, right? The cost of those sides is built into the cost of that recipe, right? The example they have up here on the board is a barbecue plate. So you have your starch, you have your vegetable. You also have your salad, including the salad dressing, even something as far as the butter, the condiments like your onions, jalapenos, pickles, right? So all of that is added up together. The cost of all of that is added up together. In this case, it's $3.43. And then no matter what, if somebody orders brisket, or somebody orders sausage, or somebody orders turkey, we still add that 343, that Q factor to get our cost for that particular menu item. Okay. And then at that point, we can decide whether we're going to use the factor method, the percentage to figure out what we should actually sell this item for. Okay. So any questions, comments, concerns with the Q factor? Basically all the free stuff. It's not free. Okay. That basket of chips and salsa, the tortillas they bring to your table. If you are wise and you are practicing good business sense, you would include that as a cost to your ingredients, to your recipe, right? And then that way you're not losing money on those things. It's incorporated with what you're selling those items for. Okay. Questions, comments, concerns about Q factor? What are some other ways? What are some other examples of how Q factor? Like we talked barbecue. We talked. Yeah, so ketchup packet, mayonnaise, the to-go like napkins, salt and pepper packets. So if you think about to-go items, right? Go ahead and take the cost of those and add them to whatever your item is part of your recipe, right? So let's say the whatchamacallit, ketchup packet at Whataburger, let's just call it 25 cents, right? So in the standard recipe that has lettuce, tomatoes, pickles, mustard, and the fries, you'd actually include the cost of that ketchup packet, maybe 2 ketchup packets, include the cost of that. And then if somebody doesn't need ketchup, then great, we saved ourselves 50 cents. But then the next person who wants 4 ketchups kind of just evens out, right? Think about like when you go to McDonald's, if you order chicken nuggets, because your inner child is like screaming, you need some chicken nuggets with some sweet and sour sauce, right? With the 20 piece, you get 2 packets. And if you want more, you have to pay for it, right? Because those 2 packets are included in the cost of that meal. Okay. So that's a great example. All right. Now, my favorite spot, my favorite part. I love this. Where can I move this? Okay. Cool. So I would like you to draw this on your notes page somewhere. Don't do it on the page that I gave you because we're going to use that for the actual activity. But on a notes page, Go ahead and draw this. There is a small area right here on this page. If you want to draw it or on the back, just redraw it. But just leave the one that's on the page blank so that we can fill it in a moment. And I'm going to make one correction to the screen. Call this contribution margin. CM, contribution margin. Okay, so I'll give you a moment to draw this on your notes page. So this diagram, this chart right here is really helpful when you are trying to evaluate two different characteristics and put them into one of four categories. In addition to changing the word profitability to contribution margin, I would like you to also put an H and an L, and then also put an L and an H. Okay. Okay. H is equal to high and L is equal to low. So in our activity today, we're going to determine how do we determine which popularity is the item itself have higher or lower popularity? And does the item itself have a low or high contribution margin? Okay. If an item has high contribution margin, okay, high contribution margin, and it has high popularity, the way we use and read this graph is we just basically draw a straight line, and wherever they intersect, that's the category they fall under. Okay, so if it has high popularity and it has high contribution margin, that means it is a star. Okay, it's one of our star performers. If it has low contribution margin and low popularity, that intersects at the dog. Okay. So star and dog, those are the two easiest to identify because it's high and high and it's low and low. Okay. The other two are a little bit kind of tricky. So the way I remember it is if it has high contribution margin, which means it contributes to our profit. It's higher contribution margin, but it's not super popular. I'm puzzled. I'm confused as to why it's not more popular. Why don't people like it as much? I'm puzzled. Okay. The last one is the plow horse. So high popularity. It does not bring me a lot of money, but people love it. So it's just chugging along, doing its job, right? People order it, they love it, but for whatever reason, it doesn't bring me as much money. It's still bringing me some money, but not as much. It's a lower contribution, right? So we're going to work on how we put these into the different categories, how we determine whether it's high or low. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is figure out what our popularity is. Okay. We want to figure out our popularity. When we figure out our popularity, the first step is we want to add all the items. Okay, so step one is to add all items served. We want to add all the items served. Okay, so that's what we've done right here on the board. We add up all of these items and we end up with 4,845 items that were served. Okay. Questions about step number one? We'll do it together as a group in just a moment. Step number two, we are looking for a percentage. What is the universal formula for percentage? Part over the whole, right? So if we're looking for the part over the whole, what number represents the whole?
4,000.
The 4,845 is our whole number. Okay, so we're going to find the percentage. Remember, that's going to be the part over the whole. And what that means in regard to this is the number of the item divided by the total items served. Okay. So if we take 867 and we can divide by 48.45, we're going to get 17.9%. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to divide each one of these by the total number that was served. Whatever this total number is down here. Okay. That's how we find out what our popularity percentage is. So let's go to our worksheet. Okay. Let's go to our in-class activity. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up on the screen. So on this page right here, you can see we have our two steps. Step one is to add all the items together. Okay. And then step two is to divide the number of each item served by the total served. That's step one and step two. So number one, if we sold 64 steak entrees, what is our popularity percentage if we sold 320 total entrees? So what is our part? 64. And what is our total? 320. So 64 divided by 320, that's our total entree. And I'm going to put steak here so we know what these numbers mean. So 64 divided by 320 is 0.2. So we move our decimal place over and we know that's 20%. So 20% of our entrees that were sold of the 320 were steaks. Okay. Do the next one on your own. If you're online, you can type your answer in the chat. If you're here in class, you can compare your answer to your neighbor, see if you got the same answer. So 25 chicken entrees. What is our popularity if we sold 75 entrees? All right, what do we get? 33.3. Right? You always want to have one decimal place when it comes to percentages. Okay? You always want to have one decimal place when it comes to percentages. So, how are we feeling about this? How popular an item is basically how many we sold of that item divided by the total number that we sold. Okay? Any questions online?
I have one question.
Yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
So 320 of that's everything, right? Like chicken and steak and everything.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. So now let's do an actual example. Here we go. Okay. You'll notice I've already given you half of the percentages. Okay. So let's take a look at these. How many total items did we serve? Our first step, we're going to add all of these together. So what do we get? Is it 500? Okay. You want to see something really cool? I love Excel. How many of you do not have any experience in Excel? Anybody? Okay, cool. I highly recommend you learn Excel. So check this out. I have these lists of items right here. I hit auto sum and hit enter, and it automatically adds up the number for me. Do anything. Show you again. I add auto sum. Auto sum and it adds up all the numbers for me. Other thing you can do is if you click and drag and highlight, it adds down here the sum is 500. Super tiny to see, but on the bottom it says sum of 500. The average is 62.5. So if you don't know Excel, I highly recommend that you take some basic Excel stuff. All right, so 500 is our total. Now we're going to divide each one of these items by 500, right? That is our that's our total. Okay. So what's 100 divided by 500? Point two, which we know is 20%. That looks like 200. Let me change that. Okay. Actually, go ahead and figure out those four. Go ahead and figure out those four. Then we'll go over them together. Once you're done, you can check your work up on the screen. All right, so 20, 16, 4, and 6%. Okay. Do we all agree? Okay,
Yes.
awesome. So let me show you one other thing real quick with Excel. My total item is 500, right? If I went and anytime you go into Excel and you want to do some kind of math, you have to start with what? What does your formula have to start with? It has to start with the equal sign. Okay. Equal sign tells Excel, okay, I'm going to do something and I want you to do something with those numbers. Okay. So I'm going to click on B17. That is 75, right? I'm not going to type in the number 75. I'm going to click on B17. And then I'm going to do the division sign and my total is 500. Okay. Now, when I click and drag, let me delete these so you can see. When I click, I get to the bottom cross that has like this little green square in the bottom. Going from a fat white cross to a skinny black cross, right? Click and drag down. You'll notice that it changes it to, it's kind of hard to see up in the top, but it's like B18, B19, B20. So I'm not typing in the numbers, I'm actually typing whatever the cell is. And so when Excel is doing the math, it's going to say whatever number I put in here, it's going to automatically change it. Okay. But are we always going to divide by 500? No, we're not, right? So what I can do is I can say equals B17 divided by B25. And now no matter what changes in B25, it automatically updates my percentage for me. Okay. There's one more trick. I know I'm a little off topic, but that's okay because it's all being recorded. You can go back and watch this. One last little trick. If I were to click and drag this, what happened here?
Can't divide it.
Remember, my formula is B17 divided by B25. When I click and drag, it's going to be B18 divided by B26. Is there anything in B26?
No.
There isn't. So Excel's like, hold on, there's nothing there. I can't do anything, right? But we want B25 to be the same number. We want it to keep that consistently. So what you can do, I learned in one of my classes, you highlight B25, click F4, and it adds those dollar signs. And essentially what it's saying is now when I click and drag, I want B25 to stay the same. So B25 stays the same in all of my formulas. So I always want it to be divided by 500. Little Excel trick, okay? If you're a small business owner, you may not have the funds available to buy any kind of like menu pricing software and things like that. But if you understand the concepts, you can just do it in Excel, okay? How can I test to make sure that I did all my percentages correctly? Well, I know Excel did it, so I know it's all right. But how can I tell if I'm doing it on my own if I calculate everything correctly?
Oh,
What's that?
Together,
Okay, and what should it equal?
100%.
It should equal 100%. Okay? So if it does, then I'm in good shape. Okay. Now, because of rounding and decimals, you may get like 99.8 if you round it down, or you might get something like 100.2, right? So if you're a little over 100, that's okay because of rounding rules on those decimals. But if you have like 105%, then you've done something wrong. Okay. So think about you might be just like slightly off from 100. Okay, that's way more time than I wanted to spend on that, but that's okay. I highly, highly, highly recommend you do Excel. Okay. The next thing, let's flip your page over. So I don't want to talk about, I want to stay on, popularity still.
Bless you.
Bless you. Okay. The other thing, we don't have to type any numbers in. If I want this bacon cheeseburger to equal this bacon cheeseburger percentage, I can do that. Whatever is up there automatically gets transferred down here. This just says whatever's in C21, C24, I want it to be over here. Okay, so those are my percentages. Now, remember, we have our little chart right here. How can we tell if something is high or low popularity? Well, what is our most popular item? Our bacon cheeseburgers. Obviously, that's our most popular item. Okay, what's our least popular item?
Corn dogs?
Corn dogs, 4%. Okay, but how can I tell if they are higher or lower? What we're looking for is what's called the popularity benchmark. Okay, everyone look right below the graph on the back side, on the back side. Do you guys have that on your paper? Yes, you do. Okay. So when we're looking for the popularity benchmark, what is a benchmark?
Baseline.
It's a baseline. That's what we're going to compare everything else to, is that benchmark. Okay. So to find this benchmark, we first have to divide 100 by the number of the items on the menu. Okay. That will give us our average contribution margin. How many items do we have on this menu? 8. So if I took 100% and divided by 8 items, what do I get?
4.5.
So 12.5%. So what this is saying is 12.5 is my average percentage across the board. If everything was at 12%, then that's my average. Okay? Follow me so far? Now, for whatever reason, don't ask me why, because I don't know the answer. For whatever reason, we then have to take a second step. And we're going to be multiplying by a given percentage. In this case, it's 75%. This percentage will always be given to you in my class. Okay? For you as a business owner, it's up to you to determine what that percentage is. And what this saying is, in order for this to be considered very popular, like highly popular, it has to achieve at least 75% of the average. And so how we find that is we multiply 12.5 by this percentage that's given, 0.75. Okay, so this is our average, right? 12.5 is our average. We took 100 and divided by 8 because we have 8 items, right? That's how you figure out the average of anything. You take the total and divide by the number of items that the total is, okay? And then we multiply by 0.75. And what do we get? What's 12.5 times 0.75?
9.375.
9.375. So we're going to call that 9.4. So 9.4% is what I'm going to determine as my baseline, my benchmark for my popularity. Okay. So let's take this up a little bit. So we can get it all on one screen. me close this. There we go. Okay. So is 15% higher or lower than 9.4?
Higher.
It is higher. Right? 15% is higher than 9.4. We're going to compare the chicken sandwich at 15%, comparing that to our 9.4. That's our average, that's our benchmark. Okay. Is 17 higher or lower?
Higher.
Higher. Crab cakes, 8%.
Lower.
Lower. Good. Chili cheeseburger,
Higher.
higher. Bacon cheeseburger,
Higher.
higher. BLT,
Higher.
higher. Corn dogs,
Lower.
lower. And veggie burgers,
Lower.
lower. So that's how we determine whether something is high or low popularity. Okay, compared to the benchmark. The benchmark is 9.4 in this case. Questions, comments, concerns about that? All right. Share my screen. Before I do that. Okay. Now, that's the first piece of the puzzle, is the popularity. The second piece of the puzzle is
Contribution.
contribution margin. Okay, remember that's the bottom of our diagram, contribution margin. Okay, so how we figure out our contribution margin is we take our menu price and we subtract the recipe cost. Okay, very simple. We take the menu price, we subtract the menu price, the cost from what we sell it for. Okay, so I wrote it. I didn't actually, you don't have to write it out, but if you want to, you can. The first step, we did the cost on our recipe. This is probably one of the most important things. You actually have to know how much your recipe costs. You can't just say, I think it cost me $2. You want to actually know how much your recipe is going to cost. Okay. Then you have to subtract those costs from our menu price. So what is $9.95 minus $3.50?
645.
45.
Okay, awesome. So go ahead, $6.45 you said?
Mhm.
Okay. Now go ahead and do the next three on your own. And then you can check your work. All right. So you can check your work up here at the top. $6.45, $4.75, $4.20, and $6 are our contribution margins. Which one has the highest contribution margin of all of our items?
Chicken sandwich.
Our chicken sandwich. Okay, which one has the lowest?
Crab cakes.
Yes, crab cakes at $4.20. Okay. All right, but how do we know which one is higher or lower? All the ones in between. It's a great question. I'm glad you asked. We are going to find the average contribution margin. So how do you find the average of anything?
You add it all up
You
and
add them all up and then
divide by the amount of How many it is?
divide by the number, okay? So in this case, we're gonna add up all of our contribution margins. I'm gonna go real easy on Excel. Our total is $44.10, if you wanna write there at the bottom. Right? We added them all together. So what I would recommend that you do, so when you go home, you remember what we did. We added $44.10. I would write that in your notes. That way you remember what we did. Okay? And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 items. So we're going to divide by 8. Our average. We add them all up and then divide by the number. Okay? Excel will tell us what that is. How do I start any formula?
Equal sign.
Then equal sign. And I just type it in, $44.10 divided by 8. It tells me my average is $5.51. That is my average contribution margin. Any questions on how we figured that number out? Average, you're going to do some homework that's going to help you remember that, okay? Your average contribution margin. So now we come down here. Let's get our contribution margins. Copy down over to the back side. Let me make it bigger for you so you can see. You know that our average contribution margin was 551 and our benchmark was 9.4%.
I have a question.
Go for it.
Why is this number important? For me to remove items from the menu in the future if they don't, sell enough.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what we're going to talk about next. Great question. So is our chicken sandwich is $6.45, is that higher or lower than 551? Higher. Is 475 higher or lower than 551? 475 is lower. Okay, 420 is 6 is higher. 6 is higher. 475
Lower.
570
Higher.
just by a little bit, but it is higher, and 625 is higher. Okay. So that's how we determine high or low in the categories. Okay, questions, comments, concerns about that? So now let's fill out our chart. That's the one that you have blank on your paper. Okay.
Mhm.
All right, so I know this is gonna be a little bit small, but the one thing that I want you to remember that high and low are the easiest ones to remember, right? Because what is high and high?
A nice star.
That's our star. Okay. So which ones are high?
Chicken sandwich.
Chicken sandwich,
Chili cheeseburger.
chili cheeseburger, and
Bacon cheeseburger.
bacon cheeseburger. Okay. So I'm gonna write that in here. Chili cheeseburger, bacon cheeseburger, and chicken sandwich. Okay. Those are my stars. The next one is low. That's the dog. Okay. So do we have any dogs?
Cupcakes.
The crab cakes. Yes, we do. Low and low. Okay. So that's going to be our dog. Okay. Now, if we have try to get this more. so I can get everything on the screen. Okay, real quick. Chili cheeseburger, bacon cheeseburger, chicken sandwich. Okay, crab cakes. All right, so now what is our high contribution margin? Okay, so it contributes. That's a high contribution margin, but it's low popularity. I need your help because I'm not going to scroll back up on this one.
BLT.
So BLT has high contribution margin, but it has low popularity. Okay,
No.
what else?
No, it's the opposite. It's
Oh,
It's yeah.
so BLT has high popularity but low contribution margin.
yeah.
Okay, let's go that way then. So what I recommend you do as you're reviewing all the categories is stick with one category at a time. Don't try to go line by line because that's where you might get messed up. So right now I'm looking for high and low, right? High popularity, low contribution margin. So let's go down the whole list. What else is high popularity, low contribution? Anything else?
Hamburger.
Hamburger. Okay, cool. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which means our last item is
Corn dog.
corn dogs.
And a veggie burger.
Oh, and we have a veggie burger too? Oh, yeah, that's right. Because I was thinking crab cakes was 2. So corn dogs and veggie burgers are our puzzles. Okay? They make us a lot of money, but they're not super popular. Okay? So now let's go back to Miss Ailes' question. Why is this important? How is this going to help you as a business owner? Well, this is going to help you identify what are our star performers. Okay? What are items that don't perform as well? And then maybe I'm going to get rid of them off of my menu because they don't sell that much. Okay? Now, in this case, if we analyze this, am I going to what are my 3 most popular items?
A chicken sandwich, chili cheeseburger, and bacon cheeseburger.
Good. Chicken sandwich, bacon cheeseburger, chili cheeseburger. Okay? Awesome. They make us the most money, higher contribution, and they're super popular. Everyone loves them. Right? If we look at our plow horses, they're super popular. People love them, but they're below our contribution margin. That's our hamburger and our BLT. What could I do to get my BLT over to the star category?
Run like a special on it.
Well, so it's already super popular. So if it's super popular, people are already buying it. So now we have to look at the contribution margin. So maybe you're like Mr. Uminski and you want 8 pieces of bacon on your BLT, but that makes it too expensive, right? And so that keeps my contribution margin lower. But maybe I can get away with just doing 4 pieces of bacon on my BLT. And that's going to change the cost of the recipe. And then that will hopefully then move it over. It changes that contribution margin. But what happens to those people that have always come to you and they come to you for your BLT because you put 8 pieces of bacon on it? And then you change it and they order it, there's only 4 pieces. What are they going to do? Probably not be happy. Go back to that price value relationship, right? I'm okay paying this amount because I get a crap ton of bacon on my BLT. But if I don't get that much, am I still is that value still there to pay that amount, right? So again, this is like all things you have to think about as a manager, as an owner, okay? So let's talk about corn dogs and veggie burgers in the puzzles. Because they are not popular, do we just get rid of them?
No.
Why would we not get rid of corn dogs?
Kids order them.
You can also, I'm sorry, someone speaking.
Oh, go ahead.
Could you also like have them piggyback, right? Like the corn dogs special with the BLT or whatever burger?
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe you can have like some kind of a special, and the corn dogs are Ashley mentioned the corn dogs are kind of more like on a kid-friendly item, right? And so maybe that's the reason why we're not selling them that much, is because it's a kid item. But if kids like it, it's making us a lot of money in our contribution margin. It's higher than the average, right? I just realized that we literally have 1 minute. I'm so sorry. Okay, let me wrap this up. Veggie burgers, are we gonna get rid of them just because they are low performers?
No,
Why not?
it's a vegetarian option.
It's our only vegetarian option. Okay, and then crab cakes are our dogs. Are we gonna get rid of our crab cakes?
Possibly.
Maybe.
Possibly, but maybe we might consider running them on a special. Maybe not have them on our menu all the time, but maybe when they're in season, maybe during Lent, when people aren't eating red meat, we might have crab cakes, right? So we can analyze our menu at different times of the year to see how different items are going to be performed. Okay. In my last minute, I want to show you real quick what I would like you to do before you come to class is I would like you to do this popularity benchmark and average contribution margin homework assignment. I know it's due next week, but I want you to do it before you come to class because that is going to allow you to understand these concepts a little bit more. Okay. So questions 1, 2, 3, and 4 basically are the same numbers. Okay. But this one is asking the benchmark for the appetizers. Okay. So again, remember we take 100, divide by the number of items. In this case is 5. And then we have a 75% average. Okay, so you multiply that by 0.75. Okay. And then you go down to question number 2. This one's asking about salads. So you're going to use that same 100, but this time you're going to divide by 6. And we're using that same 75%. So number 1, 2, 3, and 4 are using 75%, just different numbers in the categories. 5, 6, 7, 8 are using 80%. Again, with different numbers in the categories. 9, 10, 11, 12, 95% with different numbers. So just match. This is looking for entrees. So you're going to be using the entree number. Okay. That's 1 through 12. And then 13 and 14 and 15 and 16 are you're basically looking for that average contribution margin. So you're going to want to add all of these. Well, first of all, find out what the contribution margin is. And then add them all up and then divide by, in this case, 4. Okay, to get that average contribution margin. So in the last 2 to 3 minutes of the video for class, I went over this quiz. So if you want to go back and just review that, since that was relatively quickly, that you'll have that. Please get this done before Wednesday, and then we'll basically come in and we'll do a whole menu analysis on Wednesday in class. All right, thank you so much. I appreciate you giving me 2 extra minutes.
But you were gonna be here on Wednesday.
I am here on Wednesday. Yep.
Oh, this Wednesday.
Yep.
Okay, I'll put it in my
Next
notes.
Wednesday I'm not here.